A habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. The process of habit formation begins with trial and error. Whenever you encounter a new situation in life, your brain has to make a decision. How do I respond to this? The first time you come across a problem, you're not sure how to solve it. Why? Your brain builds habits. Neurological activity in the brain is high during this period. You are carefully analyzing the situation and making conscious decisions about how to act. You're taking in tons of new information and trying to make sense of it all. The brain is busy learning the most effective course of action. Welcome to Flourish. I'm Diane Planet In, and you're in the right place if you're ready to create an inspired life. And we do so by working on our own personal development so we can be strong role models for those we love and mentor, and strong for our own personal well-being. Today, we continue our journey through James Clear's best-selling book, Atomic Habits. He has written this like an owner's manual. It's absolutely fantastic. And today, we're going to be discussing how to build better habits in 4 simple steps. And he quotes a behavioral scientist, Jason Hara. Habits are simply reliable solutions to recurring problems in our environment. Habits are mental shortcuts, learned from experience. In a sense, a habit is just a memory of the steps you previously followed to solve a problem in the past. Whenever the conditions are right, you can draw on this memory and automatically apply the same solution. The primary reason the brain remembers the past is to better predict what will work in the future. The best way to predict your future is to create it. Abraham Lincoln. But think about that. Think about that. Do you drive? What was it like when you first learned how to drive? Your brain was on overload, right? And now it's literally a habit. Riding a bike, learning anything new, and then it frees up the space. That information goes to your subconscious level. Now you're open to learning more things. That's simply all it is. Took me a long time to figure that one out. He goes into saying, habit formation is incredibly useful because the conscious mind is the bottleneck of the brain. It can only pay attention to one problem at a time. As a result, your brain is always working to preserve your conscious attention for whatever task is most essential. Whenever possible, the conscious mind likes to pawn off tasks to the non-conscious mind to do it automatically. This is precisely what happens when a habit is formed. Habits reduce cognitive load and free up mental capacity so you can allocate your attention to other tasks. And he gives this example, without good financial habits, you will always be struggling for the next dollar. Without good health habits, you will always seem short on energy, and so on. It's only by making the fundamentals of life easier that you can create the mental space needed for free thinking and creativity. And I'm not going to say that's an easy thing to do, especially if you are struggling financially, emotionally, physically, whatever the case may be. Maybe you can't get 1% better each day. Can you do 0.5%? Can you try just a little bit? Can you see what happens? We're a lot of pressure on us humans, right? So just whittle away, just like you're carving the statue of David or painting the Mona Lisa. Little bit by little bit, you build upon these things. Chip away at the rock, chip away. He goes on to give us the science of how habits work. And I will link in the show notes the science episode I did from Queen's University on that as well. The process of building a habit, he says, can be divided into 4 simple steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. Breaking it down into these fundamental parts can help us understand what a habit is, how it works, and how to improve upon it. This 4-step pattern is the backbone of every habit, and your brain runs through these steps in the same order each time, And you probably don't even know it, right? Your mind is continuously analyzing your internal and external environment for hints or where rewards are located, because the cue is the first indication that we're close to a reward. It naturally leads to a craving. Cravings are the second step, and they are the motivational force behind every habit. Without some level of motivation or desire, without craving a change, we have no reason to act. What you crave is not the habit itself, but the change in state it delivers. You do not crave smoking a cigarette. You crave the feeling of relief it provides. You are craving the feeling of relief it provides. Every craving is linked to a desire to change your internal state. This is an important point. Cues are meaningless unless they are interpreted. The thoughts, feelings, and emotion of the observer are what transform a cue into a craving. And cravings are different from person to person, of course. The third step is the response. The response is the actual habit you perform. When you're got a cue, you got a craving, now you're moving into action. It's all automated, right? The response is the actual habit you perform, which can take the form of a thought or an action. Whether a response occurs depends on how motivated you are and how much friction is associated with the behavior. What he means by that is if a particular action requires more physical or mental effort than you are willing to expend, then you won't do it. Finally, the response delivers a reward. Rewards are the end goal of every habit. The cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward. The response is about obtaining the reward. We chase rewards because they serve two purposes. They satisfy us and they teach us. Haha, that's interesting. The first purpose of rewards is to satisfy your craving. Rewards deliver contentment and relief from craving. It's like, ah. Second, rewards teach us which actions are worth remembering in the future. The brain is a reward detector. As you go about your life, your sensory nervous system is continuously monitoring which actions satisfy your desires and deliver pleasure. Rewards close the feedback loop and complete the habit cycle. You're in a constant cycle, going around and around and around in absolutely everything you do. If a behavior is insufficient, he says, in any of the four stages, it will not become a habit. Eliminate the cue, and your habit will never start. Reduce the craving, and you won't experience enough motivation to act. Make the behavior difficult, and you won't be able to do it. And if the reward fails to satisfy your desire, then you'll have no reason to do it again in the future. Without the first three steps, a behavior will not occur. Without all four, a behavior will not be repeated. So you have to dig down in the habit loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. Cue, craving, response, reward. Are all four in alignment for the good habit that you want to develop? How do you identify? And I like that he uses smoking as an example. Smoking is definitely an identifier. How you identify. Are you trying to quit? Or, no, I'm a non-smoker. I don't smoke. Keep telling yourself that over and over and over again. Fill in the blank. It's not who I am. It's not who I am. It's not who I am. And you're going to break that habit. And he goes into great more detail here. And it might sound like I'm oversimplifying, but I'm just giving you a for instance. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying this is easy. Not at all. But the feeling The feeling is a good thing to pay attention to. And I only say that out loud because if you think on what's relaxing you, it's not the cigarette. You're breathing and letting go of stress. Just a little thing to think about. I tell you, once you start delving into the science of us humans, it is very fascinating on why we are so predictable. And he goes on to say these habit loops can be split into into two phases, the problem phase and the solution phase. So the problem is the cue and the craving, and it's when you realize that something needs to change. The solution phase includes the response and reward. And it's when you take action and achieve the change you desire. All behavior is driven by the desire to solve a problem, whether it's a good or bad one. Sometimes the problem is you notice something good and you want to obtain it. Sometimes the problem is you're experiencing pain and you want to relieve it. Either way, the purpose of every habit is to solve the problems you face. And he gives some really, really good examples. Number one, problem phase. Cue, you're answering emails. Craving, you begin to feel stressed and overwhelmed by work. You want to feel in control. Response, you bite your nails. Reward, you satisfy your craving to reduce stress. Biting your nails becomes associated with answering emails. I'll give you a second one. You hit a stumbling block on a project at work. That's your cue. Craving, you feel stuck and you want to relieve your frustration. Response, you pull out your phone and check social media. Reward, you satisfy your craving to feel relieved. Checking social media becomes associated with feeling stalled at work. Aha, what is running your life? By the time we become adults, we rarely notice the habits that are running our lives. Most of us never give a second thought to the fact that we tie the same shoe first each morning, or unplug the toaster after each use, or always change into comfortable clothes when getting home. After decades of mental programming, we automatically slip into these patterns of thinking and acting. Your habits are shaped by the systems in your life. A habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. The ultimate purpose of habits is to solve the problems of life with as little energy and effort as possible. Any habit can be broken down into a feedback loop that involves 4 steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. Next week, we're going to talk about the 4 laws of behavior change, how to create a good habit, and how to break a bad one. So if you like the show, share it with somebody you know, and hey, hit that subscribe button. This is amazing information, and it all ties into what we've been discussing for the past year on the show. So I will see you soon.